Hey folks, I'm Sir Vainglory, back with my 11th Anatomy of a Battle video for Steel Division Normandy 44. This is a battle between the 12th SS-Panzer and the 6th Airborne Division on the Mont-on-Mer map. So I've just returned from a couple of weeks vacation, and while I was away I reread a couple of books about Operation Market Garden, which was the Allies' plan to use airborne troops to seize a number of bridges in Holland and then push an armoured column across those bridges into the Rhine. And it put me in the mood to fight a battle with the 6th Airborne against an armoured division, but unfortunately I couldn't get a willing opponent, so I had to flip sides and play the Panzer Division myself. I'll put information in the two books I mentioned in the description below if you're interested in reading them. One's written from the Allies' perspective, and it's the book that the film A Bridge Too Far was made on. Another's from the German perspective, although it's written by an ex-British para officer. So this is the first time I'd seen this map and had to make a quick judgment on a plan. The road up the forest was really tempting to get me into a strong position for infantry to hold. It also has a dominating view over the left side of the map and a good spot there for armour to control the right flank. But on the other hand, it's an obvious location to shell or bomb with mosquitoes. The left side has a few roads for quick movement, but there's an awful lot of open ground to cover and a couple of woods on the enemy's side where MGs or anti-tank guns could be sighted. So in the end I decided to risk the bombardment and advance in strength along the road through the forest, relying on my commanders to hold the troops together. So as I said, I'm advancing in force on the main road through the forest. I've a recce section, 5 Panzer Grenadier squads and trucks, a command SPW, a verbal wind and a half-track mortar as my main force. Other than that I have 2 recce sections moving forward on roads to the left and another in the extreme right. You can see in the neutral view that my opponent split his forces fairly evenly into 2. So I leave my variable wind fairly far back, and I do the same with the mortar, just to make sure they don't fall victim to British 6-pounders, and I tend to move them up a bit nearer the front line later on. And I move the recce troops, the SPA troops, forward as far as I can safely. On the left side, my recce units have got good vision and let me see the British column advancing. Thankfully they approached the crossroads and appeared to spread out into defensive positions. My main concern at this time was that the British would realise how weak I was on the left and push hard there. On the right, the 2nd British column has moved up along the road and also seems to be taking up defensive position. I lose vision on most of the units, but I've identified Vickers heavy machine gun as a potential target for my mortar. And the front line indicator clearly shows there's nothing opposing the British on the left, and I can't believe my luck that the opponent doesn't push forward. He's clearly decided to hold the village and trees by the crossroads and is wary about deviating from his original plan. So quite happy with that. My recce units let me see some of his movements, and particularly interesting is the 6-pounder that he was moving up along the tree line there. On the right I'm wary of a potential barrage still into that forest, so I'm pushing to get into close contact as quickly as I can. And the first engagement comes here, where we open up on an airborne rifle squad in the trees there, and a P8 team pushing forward blunders right into my troops, and that's quite quickly destroyed. There's another couple of units following up and the machine gun further back, but I've already got my mortar targeting the rifle squad and it's quickly pinned down. So I begin fanning my Panzer Grenadier squads out to work around the flanks of the British and to reduce their vulnerability to any sort of bombardment. There's a couple of airborne rifle squads moving from the left to reinforce the right hand side, and first of all reinforcements begin to arrive up the road on the left. In the far right, a couple of rifle squads move out of the forest and my recce section engages one of them. Even though the rifle squad's moving in the open, I'm quite surprised at how quickly my SPA troop is able to suppress that 2-star unit, especially since they're taking fire from 2 rifle squads. But as you can see, that one squad into the valley there is suppressed. By the main road, the rifle section that was pinned by my mortar has been whittled away, while to the left the British seem to be tentatively pushing forward with a command Tetrarch, moving it through the open field. It's quite an expensive unit to use as a scout. I've got my command car on the right hand side in the main road, and I begin to push that forward to make sure that the Panzer Grenadiers are getting the benefit of it. And I've also moved my Verbowind further forward now that I'm less concerned about anti-tank guns. We encounter and wipe out another P-8 team by the main road, while the mortar targets and suppresses the Vickers heavy machine gun. The Mirillis Action on the far right is now dealing very effectively with the two airborne rifle squads. By the main road, our British Recce section, a Pathfinder squad, joins the fight, but the rifle squad's finally eliminated, and I begin pushing the troops on the left forward to take advantage. I've now brought up a Panzer II command tank on the left to support the Panzer Grenadier squads that are moving towards the trees on the left, and over on the right my Recce section is still doing a good job of holding up those British rifle squads. We spot another rifle squad moving in on the main road. The heavy machine gun's no longer suppressed, but I'm trying to keep my units to the left there out of sight behind the trees as much as possible. As we push forward, we encounter new rifle squads moving in, and the heavy machine gun also spots us. So I push the command car into position to fire an heavy machine gun and call in mortar fire on the squads. See, there's quite a few rifle squads moving up now, but the Verbowind is also moved into position to fire on them. So we spot more reinforcements coming in there on the main road, but I've now got about a Cromwell moving up on the left to help deal with the 6-pounder that I spotted earlier and clear the way for me to bring in Panzers on that flank. So that's just moving up now to join the Panzer II on the left hand side. I'm pushing forward in force now in the main road when the long anticipated airstrike arrives, and I can't believe my luck when it attacks the mortar rather than my infantry, and even more so when it does practically no damage. A very slight amount of suppression in the mortar. So in the main road the firefights become quite fierce now, but the two rifle squads that had charged forward surrendered to my Panzer Grenadiers, and they're putting down a good amount of fire there on the troops up on the ridge. On the left, my Panzer Grenadiers are in position in the trees, and my Panzer II and Cromwell are moving forward. They spot the HMG Jeep in the village, fire on it and take it out. So in the neutral view you can see that the main battle is happening around about that main road. There's British hold the left hand side very slightly now. I've got my armour holding position there until I could get eyes on the 6-pounder, but then suddenly appeared and they took it out. And the way that the front line marker moves, I'm guessing that the 6-pounder and the machine gun jeep were all that the British had on the left hand side. There's more units again being thrown against us in the main road, but they're in such a narrow front that they're quickly overpowered by the weight of fire that I'm able to bring to bear on them. So they really can't get out of being suppressed. More British units are destroyed, including at last the heavy machine gun, and my main worry now is that my troops there are going to run out of ammunition. The mortar's already out of ammo, so I'm moving that up to get it near the Verbowind so that I can resupply them both at the same time when I get an ammo truck in. On the left I've pushed forward to the village that the British had been holding, and I've encountered a heavy machine gun. The Panzer II lays down some suppressive fire while the Panzer Grenadiers rush for cover. At this point I begin pushing a Recce section from the centre down towards the left, but as it approaches this clump of trees here it runs into a rifle squad, and it's quickly suppressed, and to make matters worse, a Tempest comes in and begins to strafe it and knocks it out. So my Panzer Grenadiers and the Panzer II on the left are pouring fire onto the Vickers heavy machine gun, and they manage to suppress it. I've got some reinforcements here coming in half tracks, and I decide to push them in towards the centre and see if I can eliminate whatever's giving the British the control of that area. From having the Recce section up on the hill earlier, I know that they don't have very much there. So you can see the big bulge in the front line in the middle. As the half tracks push towards the centre, the Vickers is forced to fall back from its position in the farm. But over on the right, they've brought up another Vickers, which is making life difficult for my units in the main road. I know there's the remnants of a rifle squad on the right hand flank as well, so I've got a small force pushing up there to clear that flank. It's a Panzer II, a couple of Panzer Grenadier squads and a half-track. So they're just going to work their way up the right hand side. My Panzer Grenadiers are still fending off a couple of rifle squads, and the Tetrarch there moves in towards them to add fire support. So I've decided to push my troops on the left in towards the centre, and these two squads here focus first on the Vickers heavy machine gun, along with fire from the other units, and that's suppressed again and knocked out. And then they turn their attention onto a rifle squad in the farm ahead of them. So you can see there's another British column moving in the road to the left there. It unloads a P8 team and I send my SPA troop up to deal with that, because that would be a real threat also to my Cromwell. But my main force on the main road is still standing strong and wearing down the British units. The British are also now having to divert units from the left, or to the left, to try and stem my advance there. And I've got most of my units on the left pushing in towards the centre, trying to forge that link. British call in Mosquito again. This time it hits my infantry in the main road, but again the damage is minimal. It just falls slightly behind my troops, and the command squad is able to keep them in the fight. Another rifle squad is pushed out to the left up in the trees on the hill, but it's quickly pinned down by the weight of fire. So I'm dealing quite effectively with the units that they're throwing in. And my latest reinforcements moving up the road on the left there, you can see another Panzer Grenadier squad in a half-track. So as they move up, the rifle squad in the farm reappears, and again it's immediately pinned down by, well, that's 3 half-tracks and 3 Panzer Grenadier squads firing on it. Back on the right, the Vickers has finally wiped out one of my squads in the main road, but these units that have been moving up the right flank spot the rifle squad in that building there, and the Panzer Grenadiers advance towards it while it's under suppressing fire from the Verbovind, the Panzer II and the half-track. And once it's pinned down, I keep pushing the troops forward to force the surrender. And the Panzer Grenadiers on the left are keeping the rifle squads there suppressed, and if I'd been paying more attention to this flank, I could easily have had another couple of forced surrenders there. But the Command Tetrarch here, pushing in towards the main road, gets too close to my Panzer Grenadiers and taken out with a Panzerfaust. And my Panzer Grenadiers on the right hand side finally get into close contact with the rifle squad in the building on the right flank, and they force it to surrender. So the right flank's now pretty open for me to advance on. I've brought in a command SPW to support the infantry on the left, and have a couple of MG42s moving up in the right there to help me cover an advance across the open ground on that flank. The units on the left finally deal with the rifle squads and manage to open up the link to the main road. However, a couple of Tetrarchs come up on the left side and target my Panzer II. They force it to fall back out onto the main road and they destroy it. And you can see there's a truck transport moving on the left hand, out towards the left hand side. So I've lost vision on the Vickers to the right, but I'm moving my units into position to take it out whenever I do discover it, although I'm wary that there might be an anti-tank gun up in the trees in the ridge line on the right hand side, so avoid pushing forward with the armour and the half-track for now. I do have my recce squad still forward there, keeping eyes on that ridge line. And there's a possibility on the left that the British might push the Tetrarches on forward to cut off my reinforcements, and that truck I saw earlier might be carrying infantry to support them, so I begin pushing some units over to form a blocking force. I'm also at last bringing in the first of my Panzer IVs and an ammo truck to resupply the mortar. But the Tetrarches here get line of sight on the half track I was pushing out to the left and take it out. Fortunately they just hold position in the field where they were. And on the right hand side I begin pushing forward, and it looks like there's no anti-tank gun up on that ridge, so I go looking for the Vickers instead. And you can see on the left there's a Tempest circling my troops, and I don't have anything there to drive it away. But I am moving up a Pak 38 on the road on the left, and I hope to be able to use that to deal with those Tetrarches. As it moves up, it's engaged by one of the Tetrarches and is able to quickly dismount, and a couple of shots they're able to take out the Tetrarch. Over on the right, my Panzer Grenadiers spot the Vickers at close range, and they're able to destroy it. And I also get the first indication that the British do have units up on the ridge line, but it appears only to be infantry. So I've let things become a bit static on the left, and the British bring a Tetrarch into position to block any advance beside that village there, although my focus for now is on the right hand side where I'm beginning to make a push forward. And I can tell from the frontline indicators that the British still have some unit in the trees below the ridge, probably just the one, and I reckon that a general advance should be able to clear it out. And I just make sure that I'm not leading that advance with the tank but letting the infantry go ahead. This was probably the quietest period of the battle. But I've not lost a single unit yet from the main force advanced up the main road. I've taken a few losses in terms of numbers of men, but I still have all the squads that I started out with. And we discovered that the unit in the trees was a command unit. We're able to quickly overwhelm that. And we also spot definite movement up on the ridge and engage a couple of rifle squads there with a heavy volume of fire, and both squads are pinned quickly without being able to affect my units. I also set the mortar to target those units, but the British bring in a Mosquito, and this time its attack is more effective. And its NABAM eventually manages to take out the half-track and the MG42. And it's interesting the way that they survive initially, but it's the ongoing damage from being in the fire that causes them both to be destroyed. But the Panzer II holds the rest of the units together, which is lucky because a 17-pounder appeared up in the tree line. Fortunately the mortar had been shelling the infantry up there and was able to pin it down as it approached. Another Tetrarch appeared on the ridge and was engaged by the whirlwind, and I called in smoke from the mortar to prevent it from being able to engage any of my vehicles. And over here on the left, I decided to start to push my Cromwell and my SPW behind the trees out to the left to position them to cover that left flank. But as they move, the Cromwell's engaged by a 17-pounder. Its transmission is damaged by the first shot, and then it's destroyed. And quickly after that the SPW is taken out. So that put an end to my push for the moment. But I've brought in Tiger Whitman, and the intention was that he would provide fire support to that left flank. So I planned to leave him by the crossroads and the safety and covering the farm until I can deal with the 17-pounder. The Tetrarch pushed forward by the village there and engaged the Panzer Grenadiers, and another Vickers appeared up in the trees on the hill, and this is where I rue the loss of that Cromwell. There would have been an effective deterrent to the heavy machine gun. The Panzer Grenadiers tried to engage them both, but their morale becomes a bit of a problem having lost their commander. So I've now brought in a Panzerwerfer to soften up the units that are holding the ridge on the right hand side, and we're dealing with units that are already there but catch some glimpses of more armour moving in. On the left I've tried to get my half-tracks to help deal with the Vickers in the trees, and it is being suppressed, but one of the half-tracks moves up onto the hill into line of sight of the 17-pounder, and it becomes a sitting duck when its tracks are broken. And I think it's actually the Tetrarch that finally takes it out. As the other half-track and the Panzer Grenadiers push forward, they run into what looks like an Airborne Engineer squad, and the Panzer Grenadiers engage it and start to suppress it, but not before it's able to launch a satchel charge at my half-track and take it out. The armour I spotted coming in on the right turned out to be 3 Tetrarches, which obligingly halted, grouped up, making them a nice target for my Panzerwerfer. And as they fell back under that barrage, the Panzer IV crested the ridge and began shooting at them and destroyed one of them. Over on the left, Tiger Whitman has managed to suppress the Vickers, and my Panzer Grenadiers have pushed back the Airborne Engineers. And on the right hand side we're now pushing up onto the ridge at the main road, and I'm also bringing in a Vesp to deal with a 17 pounder on the left flank. Another Mosquito bomber comes in on the right flank, but its attack's largely ineffective again, and a Tempest that follows it in is forced to fall back by the Verbal Wind. So we've now taken the tree line on the ridge and are confronted by a Vickers and a Tetrarch, and there's also an Airborne Engineer squad moving towards my Panzer IV on the main road. The Tetrarches that were hit by the Panzerwerfer are still falling back for the moment. So the Airborne Engineer squad, as it just about gets into firing range, it's engaged by about half a dozen units, and you can see it's quickly pinned down and it's wiped out. So I then tasked my mortar to fire on the Vickers and the machine gun carrier in the trees to the right, and I see that the Tetrarches have recovered their morale and move into the same sort of vicinity, so I get ready to call in another Panzerwerfer strike in that area. On the left, having lost visual on the 17 pounder, I've had the Vesp instead target the Tetrarch by the village to give the Panzer Grenadiers some relief, and a couple of shots from the Vesp is enough to suppress the Tetrarch and force it to fall back. I've had Tiger Whitman trying to provide some fire support to the troops over there, and as he manoeuvres to try and get sight on the Tetrarch, thinking he's still in cover, he actually moves into line of sight of the 17 pounder. First shot misses, but the second shot destroys the tank. But on the bright side, the Tetrarch had been fallen back and it moves into line of sight of my Pak 38, which ensures it's not going to recover its morale anytime soon by hitting it a couple of times. A Mosquito comes in to strike my newly arrived infantry with napalm, but luckily they're still in their trucks, so they take minimal damage and debus, and they're able to move out of the fire zone. Only lost 1 or 2 men. And the Mosquito had a second attack queued up, which is in the spot where Tiger Whitman had been, so the British have been pretty unlucky with their air powers in this battle. I'd brought up a Panzer IV that was meant to support Tiger Whitman on the left, but instead it's engaged by the 17 pounder and falls back. And another Mosquito strike comes in. This one targets my Vesp, which is also forced to fall back. So by the time the Panzerwerfer strike comes in on the right, I'd lost visual on the units up on the ridge, but I know that there were a couple of Tetrarches in that location still, so hopefully the barrage has done something, but it's hard to tell if it had any real effect. I can see there's a universal carrier hanging about suspiciously in the right flank, so I get my mortar to target that and hope to drive it off in case it's an artillery spotter, but it might just have been the carrier for the Vickers, but I didn't want to take any chances. You can see that a couple of Tetrarches there did fall back after the artillery strike. So things have become fairly static again, but I do have 60% of the map control, so I'm not overly concerned. My troops on the left have become really bogged down and I need to get them some artillery or armoured support. I have some Panzer Grenadier Pioneers coming in trucks, but they are attacked by the 17 pounder and fall back. By the main road I've brought in a Recce car to support my reinforcements, and they spot a universal carrier and engage that. They also wipe out some infantry. But on the left, the Panzer IV moved forward again, and it's fired on again by the 17-pounder. But my Vesp had managed to recover its morale, and it managed to take out the ATG as well. So my SPW by the main road was able to destroy the Universal Carrier there, and then I began moving those units forward into flanking position in the Vickers. And more airstrikes come in. A Mosquito Bomber and a Rocket Typhoon attacking again the Panzer IV and the Vesp on the left, and they're forced to fall back. And on the right, for the moment, I've decided to concentrate my forces given the amount of losses they've now taken, and I move them into positions along that tree line, ready for an advance. But as they move up, the Panzer IV gets a bead in one of the Tetrarches and is able to take it out. And then the thing that I'd feared, another 17-pounder appears in the trees opposite us, but the Panzer IV is able to lay down enough fire to pin it and destroy it before it's able to do any damage. So I now believe that there's only a few scattered British units on the right hand side and in the centre, and I plan to let my units on the right recover their morale and then make a final push to pin any further reinforcements back into the forest on the hill. My units in the centre will try to push left to get behind the British defending that village. So the fiercest fight is now going on the left hand side. But there's another airstrike comes in, another Rocket Typhoon targeting my Panzer IV on the left hand side, and it also manages to do a bit of damage on the Pak 38 that was nearby. In the centre, my infantry have spotted a couple of British infantry squads as they advance. They're able to pin the unit in the trees on the left hand side, but the squad in the building in the centre is a bit more problematic. I've got an MG42 continuously firing on it now as the other units move in. So round about this time I'd been checking my air assets, thinking about bringing in some fighters to deter the British bombers, but I decided instead to bring in a Junkers 88 to attack the Tetrarch Little John on the right. The bomb destroys the tank, and the front line marker now looks like all the British had in that region was the Universal Carrier on the right hand side and the Tetrarch by the main road. Over on the left hand side I've now got 3 Panzer IVs moving up to dislodge the Tetrarch and anything else that might still be defending the village. And with the tanks moving up in support, I now push forward my infantry too. The British rifles up in the ridge open up on the infantry and reveal themselves, allowing the SPW to destroy them. So as we move forward, more British airstrikes arrive, and there's a bombing run on the infantry in the centre, but it seems to do more damage than good for the British. But the napalm strike on the infantry to the road on the left is more effective. With the infantry in the centre pinned down after the airstrike, I try pushing my units in to force a surrender, but the rifle squad manages to recover its morale, and then it destroys my SPW as it moves in. But I'm still slowly advancing on the left hand side, and I should have enough infantry in the centre to deal with the unit that's still there. So I'm reckoning the British don't really have much at all left at this point. And the Tetrarch by the main road on the right now begins to move forward, and at the same time my Panzer IVs on the left get vision on the Tetrarch over there and they take it out. And then on the right hand side my Panzer IV spots the Tetrarch that was pushing up and manages to take it out as well. And with that you can see that the British don't have much left at all, and my opponent decides to surrender. So my gamble right at the start ended up paying off for me. That strong force on the main road drew so much of the British units towards it and was able to destroy them and tip the balance of power well into my favour. It could have been totally different though if my opponent had an airstrike or an artillery barrage ready to go right at the start, or if he'd pushed up on my unguarded left flank. I could have been in trouble. But I knew that push on the left was pretty unlikely move for an Airborne Division to try. In terms of the rest of the battle, I might have done more to combat the British airstrikes, particularly the ones on the left-hand flank, but to be honest, they were more just annoying rather than being a real threat, and I preferred to just focus on trying to push the ground forces forward. I felt that I had good momentum going for most of it, particularly the push up the main road and on the right flank, and rather than weaken that by bringing in anti-aircraft units or bringing in fighters, I thought, no, I'm just going to push through and deal with any damage from the British aircraft. So thanks for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this battle. I did enjoy fighting it. Please leave me a comment and rate the video, and I hope to see you again in the next part. Cheers.